What if the one you're destined to love is the one you're fated to destroy? In a kingdom of stone and secrets, where the poor steal to survive and the noble bleed for crowns, a street thief saves a prince by accident and finds herself trapped in a royal game where love is the most dangerous weapon of all. In the trials of Arendor, only one rule stands: kill or be killed. But sometimes, the deadliest thing isn't a blade, it's a heartbeat. If you're ready to feel every heartbeat, every betrayal, every impossible kiss, hit subscribe and let the story begin. The blade trembled in her hand as Lyra faced the arena for the first time. The sand beneath her boots was still wet with someone else's blood. All around, nobles cheered from their velvet seats, a storm of gold and cruelty. Above them sat the prince she had once saved, his eyes shadowed by a crown too heavy for mercy. Lyra's lungs burned with the memory of the alley where it all began. The rain, the masked men, the stranger bleeding out on the cobblestones. She hadn't meant to save him, only to rob him. But when he looked at her and whispered, "Don't let them see me die," something inside her refused to walk away. Now that same stranger, Prince Kyle, watched as guards chained her wrists. "A thief in the trials," one jeered. "Let's see how long the rats last." Lyra smiled through the pain. "You think chains can stop a thief?" she thought. That night, in the dark of her cell, she overheard the guards whispering about a secret royal order, that the street rat wasn't meant to survive the first round, and for the first time since her arrest, Lyra wasn't afraid. She was angry. "If the crown wants me dead," she whispered to the shadows, "then they'll have to bleed for it." The torches flickered, and somewhere above, Kale closed his eyes, wishing he could stop what was coming. At dawn, the gates of the arena split open with a roar of chains. The labyrinth awaited, a maze of living stone and trapped magic. Lyra stepped forward barefoot, the sand cold as bone, her breath clouded in the chill, every sound echoing like a whisper of doom. She moved by instinct, quiet, calculating, every turn mapped by memory and scent. The air smelled of iron and moss. The walls hummed like a heartbeat. She heard the first scream before she saw the monster, a stone wolf with eyes of fire. It lunged, and she didn't fight. She tricked it, sliding beneath its jaws and cutting the rune that powered its rage. From the royal balcony, Kyle gripped the rail. "She's not fighting. She's thinking," he murmured. His father, the king, chuckled darkly. Even rats learn tricks when trapped. But Kale couldn't tear his eyes away. The way she moved, desperate yet deliberate. It was survival turned into art. When Lyra reached the center of the maze, she found an obsidian mirror inscribed with her name, Lyra of No Blood. Beneath it, a sigil glowed faintly, the royal crest. Her pulse stuttered. Why would their magic know my name? As she touched it, the mirror whispered, her own voice soft and broken. "You are not who you think you are." The walls shifted, the maze collapsing behind her. She ran for the light as stone beasts screamed in the dark. Night fell over the fortress. Lyra sat by a dying torch, tracing the mark that had appeared on her wrist, the same crest she'd seen on the mirror. It burned faintly, like a brand trying to remember what it once was. Kale found her there, silent as guilt. "You survived," he said softly. His tone was meant to be indifferent, but his eyes betrayed relief. Lyra laughed, hollow. "Disappointed?" He hesitated. "No, just surprised." "I get that a lot," she said. In the silence that followed, a distant hum vibrated through the walls, voices whispering from cracks in the stone. Lyra pressed her ear against the cold marble. "They're watching," she murmured. "The walls?" Kyle asked. "No, the ghosts of all the ones who didn't make it." When he left, she stayed awake, listening. The whispers grew into words she almost understood. The thief and the crown, the curse, reborn. She didn't sleep that night. Because somewhere deep down, she felt it. The curse wasn't just watching her. It was her. The next morning, the arena transformed into an inferno of shifting illusions. Flames danced in walls of smoke, showing each contender their greatest fear. Lyra stepped into the fire and saw her past burn alive. She was a child again, alone in the ruins of a plague ward, reaching for a mother she couldn't remember. Then the image twisted, Her mother's face became that of the queen, whispering, "You were never meant to live." Lyra fell to her knees, choking on smoke and grief. In the stands, Chaol clutched his sword hilt. He saw her breaking, and then suddenly, the illusion turned on him. He was in a golden hall, his father's voice echoing, "You love her because she's everything you can never be free of." The fire mirrored her pain. When the illusion shattered, Lyra rose from the ashes, her hair streaked with soot, her eyes sharp as blades. Chaol stood before her, panting, both of them trembling from what they'd seen. "You saw it too," she said. "I saw enough. Then you know why I can't stop fighting," she whispered. Trumpets echoed through marble halls that night. The king hosted a banquet to honor the survivors. The tables gleamed with silver and deceit. Lyra entered in borrowed armor, her eyes scanning for danger. Chaol met her gaze across the hall. For a heartbeat, the noise faded, until Lady Cerys, his betrothed, leaned close and whispered, "Careful, my prince. Rats bite when cornered." Her smile was poison. When Chaol toasted the contenders, Lyra noticed the wine shimmer faintly, too faintly. She switched her goblet with his just as he lifted it. The moment his lips touched it, his skin paled. She caught him before he fell. Gasps erupted. The king's guards rushed forward. Lyra shouted, "It's poisoned! Check the wine!" But as they searched, Cerys was gone. Later, in the shadows of the infirmary, Chaol stirred. "You should have let me die," he murmured. "You're welcome," Lyra replied, her voice cracking despite herself. "Next time I'll think about it." He smiled weakly. "You're terrible at pretending you don't care." Outside, thunder rolled over Arendor. Inside, something unspoken burned between them, something neither could afford to name. The thunder hadn't stopped for 3 days. Beneath the arena, the stones trembled with something far older than the trials themselves. Lyra followed Captain Dareth down a torchlit corridor, the air heavy with the scent of iron and ash. "You shouldn't be here," Dareth muttered. "What's chained below was never meant for human eyes." Lyra tightened her grip on the dagger. "Then maybe it's the only thing worth seeing." They reached a cavern where a creature slept, a wyvern of black scales and fractured light, its wings stitched with runes. When Lyra stepped closer, the beast stirred, a low growl vibrating through her ribs. The torchlight wavered, and she froze as its eyes met hers. Not rage, recognition. The mark on her wrist burned white-hot. The wyvern bowed its massive head. Dareth fell to one knee. "By the gods, it knows you." Above them, Chaol stood in the shadows, watching the impossible unfold. He whispered to himself, "What are you, Lyra?" The storm broke, and with it, something inside them both. Chaol found Lyra in the stables, drenched, trembling, eyes wild with defiance. "You saw it," she said. "You saw what's under your father's kingdom." "I did," he answered. "And I saw how it bowed to you." The silence between them crackled. "You think I planned this?" she spat. "That I want to be part of your cursed bloodline?" "No," he said softly, stepping closer. "I think you want to burn it down." For a heartbeat, their breath mingled. Rain, smoke, and something dangerously close to longing. She looked away first. "You should stay away from me." "I've been trying," he murmured. "It's not working." She almost laughed. Almost. Then the horn of the next trial cut through the night, and the moment was gone, replaced by dread. The morning of the third trial began with an execution. Captain Dareth, her only ally, was dragged before the court, accused of treason. Lyra fought through the crowd as the axe fell, his last words echoing in her ears. "Find the origin seal. It will tell you what you are." Chaol's face was pale as bone. "I tried to stop it," he said. "You're your father's son," she hissed. "You stop nothing." Her words cut deeper than any blade. When she turned away, he let her go, but the look in his eyes was already changing from guilt to rebellion. That night, Lyra found Dareth's hidden map, carved into a scrap of leather soaked in his blood. It led deep beneath the palace. "Origin seal," she whispered. "Let's see what truth you've been hiding, Your Majesty." Above, Chaol entered the throne room, and for the first time, defied his father publicly. "End the trials," he demanded, "or I'll end them myself." The king only smiled. "Then you'll die with her." The third trial was nothing but silence and glass. The contenders stood in a hall lined with mirrors that pulsed like living veins. "Face yourself," the herald declared, "or die pretending." Lyra's reflection stepped out of the glass. Perfect, merciless, smiling. "You think you're special because they fear you?" it taunted. "You're still a thief pretending to be a queen." "I never wanted to be a queen," Lyra said, raising her blade. "Just free." Their duel was swift and brutal. When the mirror shattered, she stood alone, shaking, bleeding, but alive. Somewhere else in the hall, Chaol faced his own double, a prince without chains, without guilt, whispering, "You love her because she makes you weak." He destroyed the mirror, and the shards fell like rain between them. They saw each other through the blood-red glass, breathless, broken, changed. "They made us fight ourselves," Lyra whispered. Chaol's reply was barely a breath. "Then maybe we should start fighting for each other." Trumpets blared through the city. The king stood before his court, his voice like thunder. "The thief is no thief," he proclaimed. "She is the bastard heir of my fallen brother, the curse reborn." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lyra's mark flared beneath her skin, proof of the lie that had kept her hidden all her life. Kyle stared in disbelief. His father had known. He'd known everything. "You used me," Kyle whispered. The king smiled. "I prepared you." Guards seized Lyra. She didn't fight. Her eyes never left Chaol's. "You wanted to know what I was," she said. "Now you do." He tried to reach her, but the guards pulled her away. That night, lightning split the sky over Arendor. The trials were no longer games. They were executions. And for the first time, Chaol understood the prophecy's cruel meaning. The thief and the crown cannot coexist. The night the trials fell, the sky tore open like a wound. Storm clouds rolled over Arendor as screams rose from the lower tiers of the arena. What had begun as a spectacle of glory had turned into chaos, beasts breaking free from their cages, nobles fleeing in silks drenched with blood. The king's soldiers tried to hold the lines, but the wyvern's roar shattered every illusion of order. Lyra, still bound in chains from her arrest, dragged herself through the sand, every breath tasting of iron. She had seen this moment in her dreams. The fire, the crumbling towers, the screams of the guilty. Yet now, standing amid the wreckage, all she felt was sorrow. "This is what their crowns cost," she thought. "This is what my bloodline built." From the royal balcony, Chaol defied his father for the last time. "End it," he shouted, sword drawn, rain streaming down his face. "The trials are over. Let her go." The king's eyes gleamed with cold amusement. "You think love makes you righteous? Love makes you weak." When Chaol turned his back, his father raised his hand to strike. But lightning split the sky, and the wyvern descended through the smoke like judgment itself. The chains that had held Lyra snapped under the force of its landing. It bent its colossal head toward her again. She touched its scales, whispering through the storm, "I'm done hiding." The wyvern's eyes burned gold, and Lyra climbed onto its back. For one breathless instant, she and Chaol locked eyes through the chaos. The prince and the thief, finally on the same side. And then the wyvern roared, hurling its fire toward the throne. Smoke swallowed the arena, turning the world into a canvas of flame and ash. Chaol stumbled through the wreckage, his arm bleeding from a shattered guard strike. He found Lyra standing amidst the firelight, the wyvern coiled protectively behind her. For a moment they just looked at each other, two souls who had been enemies, allies, and something far more dangerous in between. "You shouldn't have come back," Lyra said, her voice hoarse. "I couldn't stay away," he answered. His eyes flickered toward the blade in her hand. "Are you going to kill me too?" Her breath hitched. "Do you want me to?" He stepped closer, slow and deliberate, his face streaked with soot and rain. "I want you to live," he said, "even if it means I don't." The words shattered her anger. For all the pain he'd caused, for all the lies and blood, he had never once lied about this. The way he looked at her like she was something more than fate's mistake. Lyra dropped the blade. For the first time in her life, she let herself touch him not out of violence or desperation, but out of truth. Her hand cupped his jaw, trembling. "You're a fool," she whispered, "and so am I." Then she kissed him, fierce, defiant, and aching with everything they could never say aloud. When the kiss broke, they were surrounded by soldiers. Cale turned, drawing his sword, standing between her and death. "Run," he said. Lyra picked up the blade again, shaking her head. "No, we finish this together." The throne room burned. Pillars collapsed, the banners of Arendor melting into molten gold. The king stood at the center, untouched by the flames, his armor gleaming like judgment. "My son," he called, voice echoing through the ruin. "You would destroy a kingdom for a thief?" Cale limped forward, blade dragging against the marble. "No," he said. "I'd destroy a kingdom for the truth." Lyra entered behind him, her hair wild, her mark blazing like fire through her veins. The king turned his gaze to her, and for a heartbeat, just one, his expression faltered. "You look just like her," he whispered. "Your mother begged me to spare you. I should have." Lyra's throat tightened. "You killed her." "I saved this realm," he hissed. "One life for 1,000. She raised her sword, but her voice broke before the swing. "You saved nothing." Cale stepped between them, eyes full of fury and heartbreak. "Father, enough." The king smiled, a tragic sort of madness in his gaze. "So it ends as it began. Blood for blood." He lunged. The blade meant for Lyra met Cale's chest instead. The world stopped. Cale's eyes widened. Lyra's scream tore the air apart. She caught him as he fell, his hand still gripping the sword between them. His final breath was a whisper against her ear. "End it, before it ends you." She rose, tears cutting through soot and blood, and faced the man who had stolen her past. "You took everything from me," she said, "but not this." The wyvern roared outside the shattered walls, and fire engulfed the throne. The king screamed, then fell silent. The dawn after the fire was not quiet. It was heavy, the kind of silence that only follows too much screaming. Lyra stood amid the ruins of Arendor, the crown melted and twisted at her feet. The wyvern perched on the highest tower, watching her like a sentinel of a dying age. She felt Cale's blood still drying on her hands. His body had been taken by the healers, but his words haunted her. "End it before it ends you." What did that mean? Mercy? Death? Freedom? The nobles who survived gathered, demanding to know who would rule now. Lyra stared at them, these people who had cheered for her death and now begged for her command. "There is no throne," she said. "There never was. Just a lie we all agreed to bow to." She walked past them and climbed the broken steps of the arena. Children from the slums were already picking through the rubble, their eyes wide, their small hands reaching for scraps of gold. She knelt beside one, a girl with a scar like her own. "You don't have to steal anymore," Lyra whispered. "You can build." When she looked up, the sun finally broke through the clouds, turning the ruins to glass and light. For the first time, Arendor didn't look like a kingdom. It looked like a beginning. Months later, the sea wind carried the scent of salt and new life through a small coastal village far from the ashes of Arendor. Lyra walked along the shore barefoot, her hair braided with silver thread, her eyes softer now, though the fire in them never fully faded. She taught the village children how to fight with wooden swords, laughing when they fell into the sand. The sound of footsteps behind her stopped her mid-laugh. She turned and froze. Kyle stood at the edge of the dunes, his arm in a sling, his smile weary but alive. "I told you," he said quietly. "It would take more than a king to kill me." She ran to him before reason could intervene. The moment their hands met, the world seemed to exhale. "You should have stayed dead," she whispered, tears slipping free. "Then who would steal your peace?" he teased, and reached into his coat. In his palm lay a melted band of gold, the crown, reforged into a simple ring. He slipped it onto her finger. "A thief deserves her treasure." Lyra looked down, then up at him, laughter tangled with disbelief. "Still stealing from your kingdom? Only what was never theirs," he said. The wyvern circled high above, its shadow stretching across the waves like a promise. Lyra leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder as the horizon burned with light. "So, thief and prince," she murmured. "What now?" He smiled, eyes on the endless dawn. "Now, we steal the future.